Hello everyone, welcome back to the Battle War Conflict channel. Please subscribe and like my videos. Tonight, I bring you an urgent and dramatic story. Israel Darurat, the largest ballistic missile attack from Iran that shook Tel Aviv and Haifa. The sky ignited, sirens screamed, and the heart of Israel trembled. In just a few moments, we will dissect every angle, what led to this strike, how Israel responded, and what it means for regional power balance. Let's begin with the exterior, the broad strategic and geopolitical context that frames this confrontation. In the exterior view, we must first understand the backdrop, the deepening tensions between Iran and Israel, escalating over months and years, over Iran's nuclear ambitions, its support for proxy forces, and Israel's periodic strikes inside Iranian territory. In June 2025, Iran launched what is widely considered among the most intensive barrage of ballistic missiles ever aimed at Israel, targeting Tel Aviv and Haifa. According to reports, more than 100 missiles were launched, with the IRG claiming some used a new method designed to overwhelm Israel's air defenses. Some sources say about 200 ballistic missiles in multiple waves since the night of June 13. Israel responded with retaliatory strikes in Iranian territory targeting missile bases, infrastructure, and command nodes. This confrontation marked an unprecedented direct use of ballistic missiles between two long-time adversaries, crossing the threshold from proxy conflicts to open exchange of long-range fire. Externally, the geography matters. Tel Aviv lies centrally on Israel's Mediterranean coast, a dense urban and economic hub. Haifa, to the north, is also a major port and industrial center. Targeting both simultaneously was clearly meant to sow fear, demonstrate capabilities, and test Israel's defensive networks. The maneuver shows Iran was willing to risk greater escalation. Externally, this missile salvos also had psychological impact. The disruption of civil life, mass alarms, sheltering populations, media outcry globally, and diplomatic shockwaves among allies. The external picture: missile arcs crossing borders, anti-missile interceptors lighting up the night sky, damage to infrastructure, fires, chaotic emergency responses. Now let us step inside. Interior meaning what happened beneath the surface. Inside Israel's defense systems, inside its command, inside the civilian experience, inside how dangers played out in cityscapes, and inside psychology. The interior of Israel's air defense ecosystem is complex. The Iron Dome, David's Sling, the Arrow series, and other radars and point defense systems collectively defend from rockets, missiles, drones. In this attack, Iran claimed some missiles used new techniques to saturate or confuse defense, perhaps multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, MIRVs, decoys, altered trajectories, or stealth features. Reports suggest that while many missiles were intercepted, a fraction evaded and struck critical points. A school, residential buildings in Bnei Brak, Petah Tikva, Haifa oil refineries, and portions of the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv. Such interior failures, breakthroughs through defense, are as important as successes. Each one erodes confidence, compels overcommitment to defense, and imposes political costs. Inside cities, sirens blared, families scrambled into bomb shelters, power disruptions occurred, and communities were thrown into confusion. In Tel Aviv and Petah Tikva, windows shattered, concrete cracked, fires broke out, and rescuers raced in. In Haifa, the oil refinery and port areas caught damage, causing plumes of smoke and secondary damage to pipelines and electrical networks. Hospitals activated emergencies, ambulances drove through debris, littered streets, civilians were injured by shrapnel or collapsing walls. The interior narrative is human: fear in children's eyes, families who had seconds to decide whether to shelter or flee, paramedics working under threat of further strikes, and the psychological toll of knowing that even your capital city is not immune. Inside command centers, Israeli defense forces scrambled. Radar operators tracking dozens of incoming trajectories, interceptors launched. Decisions made in milliseconds whether to defend which target, allocating resources, managing false alarms, redundancy in communication lines, coordinating civil defense alerts. The strain on these systems is enormous. Officials had to assess when to retaliate, at what scale, which Iranian sites to hit in return without triggering full-scale war. On the Iranian side, missile launch sites were monitored, relay signals protected, and missile command and control spokesmen announcing their success. Inside the cloak of war, much is invisible but lethal. Now let us consider performance, how this attack measured in terms of effectiveness, interception rates, damage caused, and overall execution. In ballistic missile engagements, performance is judged by payload delivered versus how many interceptors succeed, how many missiles failed mid-flight, how many bypassed defenses, and how much collateral or strategic damage was done. In this strike, Israel claimed most missiles were intercepted or failed to reach targets, but conceded that a minority did succeed. For example, some sources cite that about 25% of missiles hit open areas or failed, while others breached urban areas. Casualty reports: at least 4 civilians killed initially, dozens wounded, with tens more injured in subsequent reports. Additional reports say 8 more killed, hundreds injured, U.S. embassy damaged. Infrastructure damage included residential buildings, schools, the Haifa oil refinery, and utilities. In performance terms, Iran achieved partial success. It could carry out a massive strike, test Israeli defenses under duress, inflict physical and psychological damage, and force Israel into retaliatory posture. But it also risked overreach. If intercepted overwhelmingly, the attack appears as symbolic rather than decisive. From Israel's perspective, performance of defense is creditable. A high interception ratio in a saturated salvo is no small feat. But the breaches matter. Each one represents strategic risk and domestic criticism. The performance mark is mixed. Strong defense under pressure, limited penetrations, but unavoidable damage and casualties. Now examine safety features, or in this context, the defensive systems and protective protocols that Israel has engineered to protect its people, infrastructure, and command. Safety here means air defense, civil defense, early warning systems, shelter architecture, redundancy in infrastructure, command continuity, and emergency logistics. Israel's Iron Dome is designed for short to medium-range rockets and missiles. David's sling and arrow systems cover higher altitude and longer-range ballistic threats. Their layered defense architecture is intended to give depth. Incoming threats pass through successive filters, and interceptors attempt to neutralize before damage. In this event, these safety systems were stressed to maximum capacity. The fact that many missiles were neutralized before reaching cities testifies to functional effectiveness. Also, early warning sirens and alert systems are part of urban safety. Citizens receive notifications to seek shelter seconds or more before impact in many zones. In many neighborhoods, bomb shelters, some public, many private, are wired into building basements. Older construction standards in Israel often include reinforced safe rooms, mamad, inside apartments. These structural safety features save lives in missile impacts. Other safety features include redundancy of power and communications. If one grid fails, backups route power, emergency lighting, and communication services switch to secondary networks. Hospitals are built with backup generators, shielded rooms, and protocols to continue functioning under attack. Command and military installations have hardened bunkers, underground command centers, and electromagnetic pulse EMP protection to survive missile bursts. Emergency services fire brigades, medical teams trained for mass casualty scenarios, with triage zones, mobile units, and preparedness plans. In this strike, the resilience and coordination of these safety features prevented broader collapse. Though damage occurred, critical functions remained in service, rescue operations proceeded, and coordination of counterstrike was not paralyzed. But no safety system is perfect. The missiles got through. Children and elderly were harmed. Infrastructure damage occurred, and fear spread. In addition, safety is psychological as well. Maintaining public morale, managing panic, and ensuring that civilian self-defense instructions seek shelter, avoid windows, follow alerts are disseminated and obeyed in real time. Next, we turn to unique selling points. But here it means what unique strategic or tactical features made this attack unusual, what unique strengths or gambits were in play, and what differentiators define this strike compared to prior exchanges. First, the scale. This assault is among the largest direct ballistic missile attacks launched by Iran against Israel. That scope itself is a showcase, testing limits, sending strong deterrent signals, and asserting that Iran is not constrained to proxy axes alone. Second, the claimed use of a new method that Iran says overwhelmed or bypassed Israel's defenses is a unique technical gambit. If true, it shows innovation, decoys, MIRVs, or signal jamming integrated into attack waves. Third, the dual targeting of both central Israel, Tel Aviv region, and northern Israel, Haifa, simultaneously is a strategic broadening, attacking multiple fronts to spread the stress on defensive systems. Fourth, the psychological and symbolic impact, striking Israel's economic and urban heart rather than just military bases, pushes the conflict into civilian consciousness. Fifth, escalation control. Despite the gravity, Iran appeared to calibrate damage to avoid full-scale war, launching a heavy attack but not obliterating all strategic depth. Also unique, the interplay of U.S. involvement. Some reports suggest U.S. assistance intercepted Iranian missiles or intelligence, shared support. Whether true or not, that dimension raises stakes. Whether the strike is just bilateral or part of broader alignments. The response posture also is unique. Israel struck back into Iran with significant force, targeting missile infrastructure and command nodes. Thus, this event may mark a turning point, a new threshold in direct confrontation rather than proxy or covert actions. Now, price. This is not a consumer item, but we interpret price as cost and consequences, human cost, material cost, geopolitical cost, and the costing, kind and escalation, human price, Israelis lost lives, wounded civilians, trauma, displacement, urban damage. In Haifa port and refinery, workers died, and environmental damage may follow. On the Iranian side, retaliatory strikes by Israel may kill or injure fighters, technical staff, missile crews, and damage infrastructure. The geopolitical price, the risk of wider war, involvement of regional actors Lebanon, Syria, Hezbollah, international condemnation or alignment, oil price shocks, sanctions, diplomatic isolation or coalitions forming. Material cost, repair of buildings, power grids, industrial assets, replacement of interception munitions, increased defense spending, crisis logistics, emergency services, rebuilding. In escalation price, once thresholds are crossed, tit for tat may spiral, each side compelled to respond, reducing room for diplomacy. For Israel, a just response must balance deterrence with avoiding civilian backlash or broad war. For Iran, aggressive use risks international military backlash or ground retaliation. In short, the price is manifold, and the consequences compound over time. Finally, conclusion. In conclusion, this episode, Israel Darurat, Iran's biggest ballistic missile attack on Tel Aviv and Haifa, stands as a watershed in the Iran-Israel conflict. The exterior panorama shows a region pushed closer to overt war. The interior perspective reveals human suffering, system stress, command decisions, and the psychological toll. The performance of both offense and defense was tested. Israel's systems largely held, but vulnerabilities were exposed. Safety measures mitigated much damage, yet they were imperfect. The unique qualities of the attack's scale, simultaneous multiple fronts, new claim techniques, and bold signaling mark a new chapter in regional confrontation. And the price is steep: lives lost, infrastructure damaged, alliances shaken, and the specter of escalation looms. For viewers, the message is stark. No state in that region can remain entirely insulated. Defense is expensive not only in money but in constant vigilance. The balance of deterrence is fragile, and new weapons and tactics can shift assumptions overnight. For Iran, the attack may claim political prestige and deterrent posture. For Israel, the breach may catalyze further countermeasures, invest more in layered defense, and push for alliances. So, as this crisis unfolds, we will continue to monitor whether diplomacy steps in or escalation deepens. Will Israel strike harder? Will Iran respond further? Will regional actors be drawn in? That remains to be seen. Thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown valuable, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This channel keeps you on the front lines of global conflict analysis. Stay alert, stay critical, and I'll see you in the next video.